Hello there, my name is Solmaz, and you are listening to Tabling Thoughts podcast. In this podcast, I talk about my experiences as a relationship coach and psychotherapist. The little things that I noticed in my clients' day to day lives, which may affect the quality of their lives and relationships enormously, and for some reasons, they don't pay that much of attention to them. As I mentioned, I'm a relationship coach and I also practice as a psychotherapist in Ontario, Canada. In order to get more information about me, you may check my Instagram account, YouTube, or my other podcasts via the links in description.
You are listening to the 37th episode of Tabling Thoughts podcast, published in August 2025. And in this episode, we are going to talk about closeness versus codependence, when love feels like obligation. I'm so glad you're here because today we are going to talk about a topic that touches almost everyone at some point in their lives, even if we don't have the words for it. The theme of this episode is closeness versus codependence, when love feels like obligation. Let me ask you something right from the start. Have you ever caught yourself wondering whether the closeness you share with someone you love is genuine intimacy, or if it's actually obligation, habit, or even fear disguised as love? It's not always easy to tell the difference. On the outside, both closeness and codependence can look like devotion, loyalty, even sacrifice. But inside, the emotional experience is completely different. One fills you up, the other quietly empties you out. Closeness is meant to feel nurturing. It's supposed to give you space to be yourself while also being deeply connected to another. But codependence, on the other hand, asks you to shrink. It convinces you that your worth is tied to how much you give, how much you fix, how much you erase your own needs for someone else's comfort. And this distinction matters. It matters because so many of us blur these lines without realizing it. If you come from an immigrant family, if you are a woman who was taught to put everyone else's needs first, if you're someone who takes pride in being the reliable high achiever, then you probably know what I'm talking about. The messages we have grown up with were something like a good partner sacrifices, a good child never says no, a good friend is always available. And all these messages can make us confuse obligation with closeness. I want you to think about your own relationships for a moment. In your partnerships, do you ever find yourself saying yes when your heart is screaming no? In your family, do you carry responsibilities that feel more like pressure than love? In your friendships, do you ever feel like you're the giver while the other person simply takes? And then when you pause, do you call it love? Even if it feels heavy, draining, or sophisticating? That's the tricky part. Codependence often wears the mask of love. It can look like devotion. It can look like loyalty. It can look like deep connection. But inside, it often feels like trap. I want to explore what closeness actually looks like when it's healthy. I want to pull back the curtain on codependence and slow down and show you why it feels so seductive, why so many of us fall into it, and why it quietly erodes our sense of self. We will talk about the definitions, we will look at everyday examples, and we will dig into the psychological roots that make codependence so common. And most importantly, we will end with reflection and practical steps and tools that you can use to move away from obligation and go toward authentic closeness. Because at the end of the day, the relationships we long for with partners, with family, with friends, even with ourselves, aren't supposed to deplete us. They're supposed to sustain us. They're supposed to give us energy, freedom, and respect. They're supposed to allow us to be fully seen, not quietly erased. So here is the question I want you to carry with you as you listen today. Am I in a relationship that nourishes me or one that quietly drains me? Am I choosing closeness or am I carrying obligation? Tune in to the next episode of the Tabling Thoughts podcast because this conversation might shift the way you see not just your relationships, but the way you see yourself inside of them. So, till next episode of this podcast, take good care of yourself.